Hi, it's Winton Churchill with the Barefoot Consultants, and welcome to our Friday Facebook call, also appearing on YouTube as well. And I'd like to welcome you here. Today, we're going to be talking about three things that new baby boomers and 50 plus freelancers do that destroys their career when they try to go freelance on one of the various networks. And that's an important thing to understand that, you can do that. You can absolutely destroy your credibility and your hireability and the desirability of your profile and that kind of thing by doing a number of things. And this is pretty sad because I know lots of baby boomers and 50 plus have all kinds of skills and all kinds of experience and all kinds of resilience and that kind of thing. And they're showing up on these networks and they're just not understanding how the game is played. And if you've ever been in a social situation, maybe you're out at a restaurant or a conference and several people are talking to one another in a small group, and then one person comes in and tries to monopolize the group and take over the group and that kind of thing. And they're just a little quirky socially, but it kind of breaks up the group and everybody wanders away. Well, the same kind of thing can happen in an online network. And just to set this up, right now we have many millions of people leaving the job market. They go back to their job and they say, I ain't going to do this anymore. And they say, I'm going to go freelance. And they know that they have a lot of valuable skills and the ability to work, but they don't quite realize that they have to sort of integrate into a whole different network. I was talking to somebody recently that had worked for a company for about 12 years. So they knew how the company worked. They had lots of contacts within the company that they had to interact with over time. And they were making in excess of six figures. Their perception was that they were going to be able to pirouette into freelancing at that same compensation. And for the most part, that doesn't happen because the freelance networks are surprisingly areas where freelance buyers are not just hiring a person to do one job, one task, that kind of thing. They're looking for talent that they can retain in their organization and work with over time. They may not want to use you all of the time, but they might want to use you some of the time to do things that they need done. And many organizations since the pandemic have figured out that freelancers are a great way to go. A lot of times they get better skills than they may have internally within their organization, so they can bring somebody in. But the good news is they don't have to hire them for a year or two and keep them busy if they only need them for 3 or 4 months to work on something. Could be something like an event, like a trade show, like a special product launch, special new website they're building, that kind of thing. So lots of good reasons to bring that freelancer in and save a lot of money on maintaining them on the payroll and that kind of thing. And of course, we saw this Bloomberg article that was came up, and I'll just drop it in the chat window here. More than 75% of U.S. businesses are planning to hire freelancers in the economy as we go forward until it improves, is the implied part of that headline. That's certainly going on. We see it everywhere. We see head counts are being frozen. If you've worked in a major corporation, you have a certain number of head counts that you're able to hire. Well, oftentimes those are being frozen. Managers are asking, can we do this with a freelancer, that kind of thing. So and before all this happens, the framework for all of this is one of the first mistakes that I see people make is they don't do a good profile. I mean, we used to agonize over our resumes, and they put together a profile that looks like they're signing up for an Amazon account. Very little information, very little stuff for the hiring manager to grab onto. Oftentimes, those profiles are shared within the organization, and people are saying, is this the right person for us? Because yes, they're going to give you a small assignment at the very beginning to see if you can actually complete an assignment. And they're going to see what your work product looks like. If you're writing an article or summarizing a report or making 3 to 5 PowerPoint slides, whatever it might be, they're going to take a look at that, and they're not asking, is this exactly what they want? They're asking, is that a person that is the kind of person that has the chops, they have the work output to do what we need them to do? And so that's what what they're looking for. So one of the things that happens, and this falls under the category of not checking your ego at the door, and this is a hard one for some baby boomers and 50 plus to hear. They say, listen, I've been making big money for the last 20 years. I'm not going to go to some stinking freelance website and work for $15 an hour. And what they don't realize is how the game is played. They're just like that person that barges into a group of people at a conference and starts kind of talking inappropriately. The organizations that are hiring through these networks are going to give you small jobs at first. And, it's like any business model. The first thing when you get in there, you're not optimizing for how much you make an hour. You are optimizing to demonstrate to that network, because all these networks, all of them have an algorithm that is sitting back there, and they're looking at the new people coming in part, and they're saying, does this new freelancer know how to satisfy a client? They're not saying, does this new freelancer make $100 an hour? Does this new freelancer get hired for an enterprise job or whatever it might be? They're saying, does this freelancer know how to accomplish something in a very specific, very constrained, simple environment, but something that will demonstrate to that person's skill set? And so they resist bidding on these smaller jobs, which is unfortunate. There is on many networks, you want to do a half a dozen jobs that take you no more than an hour or two each to do, and you want that half a dozen jobs in our sense is typically enough to prompt the algorithm to say that you know how to satisfy a client. And this is the thing that most people misread. They think, I got to do this job just perfectly. No, it doesn't have to be done just perfectly. The question is, do you know how to satisfy a client? And that the client satisfaction comes from a relationship and interacting with your client and understanding what they want done. Sometimes they don't completely tell you what they want done, because until they're in the small project, they might remember, oh, I need to do this and I need to do that, and we need to do this other thing. And there might be a few changes that you're going to make to that project from the time you're engaged and the time that it's finished. And your flexibility and kind of resiliency in terms of being able to respond to that person's request is what makes for a satisfied client. And with that, like everything else on the planet today, when we complete a transaction, we're asked, how did you do? And so that freelance buyer is going to give you between 1 and 5 stars. and anything between 4 and 5 stars is great. And this is an opportunity. This is why we recommend doing simple, straightforward jobs. The higher a job pays, the more demanding a client is. And so if the job is not that demanding and not that highly compensated, the rating is much more likely to be 5 stars if you do that job well. So that's what we're looking for. We want to, I call it priming the algorithm. We want to get those first half dozen jobs into the system so the algorithm recognizes that you know how to satisfy clients, and most importantly, that the people you do the work for recognize that you know how to satisfy clients. And so I talked to somebody recently who was very good at Excel, Microsoft Excel, and there were many jobs that we were looking at, and they said, "Well, I don't want to do Excel. I've lived in Excel for all my life. I've been in accounting. I don't really want to do that." And I said, "That's all well and good, but those first half dozen to dozen jobs, you want to do very simple ones. You want to do them in your strongest suit of expertise. And some of those you may actually hold your nose in order to do. This is part of the process, just like when you interviewed for a job. You filled out application forms. In some cases, you took tests that in one way or another demonstrated your ability to do certain things. And these networks are no different. It's just that the person who ultimately is going to buy your services is conducting, if you will, that test. The other thing that, the second thing really that, people do is they bill or ask for fees that are way above at the top end of the scale. And it's a little bit like walking on an ice lake. If you've ever, I had cousins in Minnesota, and I was there in Minnesota for a few winters as I was growing up, and we would go ice skating on the lake, or sledding or ice fishing or whatever it is. But you obviously had to be very cautious and careful in the early part of the year to make sure the lake was frozen. So as you step on the ice, you step on it, you're listening for cracking sounds, you're testing to make sure that it's solid. And once you've demonstrated that you're solid on these networks, then you can go ahead and you can tackle the bigger jobs, and you can focus more on optimizing for your hourly income or your per hour rate. Those are two different things. One is a job where you're paid by the hour. One is a job where you get a fixed price. And when you get a fixed price, usually you make more money because that fixed price says, I'm going to do this whole job, whatever it is, for this number. And that really demonstrates a lot of confidence to the person that you're working with. When you work by the hour, and there are a number of jobs where you just have to work by the hour. That's the nature of them. Typically in customer service jobs, in some virtual assistant jobs, hourly is what you're going to do. That's just what happens. But if you're working on a fixed price job, that tends to be the more complex jobs, tends to be the jobs that pay higher. And so you're going to go from, say, a number like $15 an hour for those first few jobs up to $30, $40, $50 an hour and above in many cases. I was working with one of our members this week who just was accepted an assignment at $65 an hour. So, those jobs are in there. $65 an hour multiplied by 2,000 works out to an annual rate of $130,000 a year. And so absolutely those kind of jobs are in there. But if you don't crawl before you walk, and really, if the first part is standing up. If those of you that have kids, Standing up, is kind of the first part, and then crawling is the second part, and then walking is the third part, and that takes a while to do. And why people want to dash into a freelance network and expect their new job to be uh, any different than that sort of stand up, crawl, walk sequence is beyond me, you know. And so just know that as you get those first jobs in there, you're not going for an optimized income. And then the third thing, and this is under the category of not checking the ego, is they might get their first job and it's a $15-20 an hour job. And they say, they're only paying me $15 and it's only an hour job. I think I'm going to cancel it. Or the deadline is tomorrow, but I'm going to finish it in a couple days. They're not paying me that much. It's not like I'm going to break my neck to make sure this job gets in on time. Well, a couple things to know is the algorithm is sitting out there watching your behavior, and it sees the due date coming up over here, and it sees your behavior, and it notices, just like a credit score, that you missed a payment. You had promised to deliver something on a certain schedule and you didn't get it in, and it's going to ding you. It's going to say this person, at least in this one instance, does not meet their commitments. Now, if something truly came up, like we just had a hurricane in Florida, that's a good reason to call your client and say, listen, I had to evacuate or whatever it is. Can we move the due date out? And that's a reasonable thing to do. But it's not something to do just because they're not paying you that much. You don't want to do it. The algorithm is watching your behavior and it's sorting you into a bucket of, are you a good freelancer or you are not so good a freelancer? Do you know how to satisfy people? Do you not know how to satisfy people? And so that's the thing that this algorithm is looking at. So I tell people, and I just was counseling somebody last week that is this coming from a 6-figure job, and they said, well, I'm busy and I don't know if I can get it in on time and that kind of thing. And I said, you want to treat that job as if it's $100 an hour job, and use that for your mindset for completing that job, because it's that important. And you want to demonstrate to that client that you're willing to meet their needs as they go through that, because most clients want to do repeat business with you if you have the chops. And that's the important thing. And part of the chops is being responsive to their deadlines. So 3 very important ways that people kind of blow up their freelance career. And if you go onto one of these systems and you're not meeting deadlines and not meeting needs and all that kind of thing, it's not good. It's just not good. And it's that algorithm, kind of like a credit report, just lives with you over a period of time and is something that you don't want to fool around with. So I see Bob here. Bob, good to see you. How are you doing today? And the way Facebook works, I see that we've got a number of other people on the line, but of course I can't, with all the privacy stuff, I can't see who you are unless you press the like button, and then I can see who you are. And I know many times that's how I recognize people after we've been on the on the call. Bob says he's doing good, and I'm getting ready for a master class. We're doing a master class on freelancing over the weekend, so that's a couple days. I think it's about 6 hours a day of live training. So that's always fun, and just looking forward to that for the people that are coming to that. And our masterclass series, it goes over the weekend, but then we have um, 3 weekly follow-up events where we're helping people uh, uh, on Saturday with additional training as they get into things. And then we're also um, have what we call Zoominars, where during the week we have like mini workshops with the people that are in the master class. So we've got them hooked up with our coaches and myself, and we'll be in there helping people complete some of the work and do some of the things that it takes to initially get a really good profile, and then learn how to find the best jobs, and then learn how to bid and propose on jobs, and then learn how to complete the business and deliver it. So it's kind of the full cycle, and we'll be in the cycle for about another month after the master class, but it's really enjoyable. It's one of the ways that we get to work most deeply with people that that want to do freelancing. And the Great Resignation has produced lots of people that want to freelance. They want that freedom. And what we're seeing a lot of is people they go back into the office, they don't like it, they get that they want the freedom, and they go out and say, I'm going to freelance. And they're sitting at their desk in their home office typically, and there's no customers. And so how do you go get customers? Well, you get them on these project networks like Upwork and freelancer.com and Fiverr, and there's approximately 150 others as well, that they could work on, but they just don't know where they are. They don't know how to show up. They're all that's been taken care of in the company that they were working with. So uh, lots of new ground to plow, and lots of skills to coalesce around their new persona as a freelancer. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. I want to thank everybody for stopping by, and those of you that are watching this on the replay, we monitor the comments, and you're welcome to put any comments in there that you'd like, or any questions, and we're happy to answer those. And we look forward to seeing you next week. So have a great week freelancing. Take care.